On December 11, 2014, the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Energy and Power held a 2-hour hearing on the Energy Policy Act of 1975. This is Natural Gas 102 and a 5-minute recap. The hearing was really important because it was the first time you could see members of Congress seriously rethinking the crude oil export ban.
Now, in the mid-1970s, Mr. Chairman, the OPEC oil cartel had an oil embargo against the United States and Western Europe. I could go to the gas station and buy 10 gallons of gas on odd days based on the last digit in my license plate. Putting a ban on crude oil exports at that time made some sense. Well, what's the situation today, Mr. Chairman? The United States is the #1 oil producer on a daily basis in the world.
The panel heard some updated statistics.
In 2014, net imports as a share of total U.S. petroleum consumption is now down to below 30%, close to 25%.
2 witnesses testified against the current ban.
The only express ban that remains today is on crude oil. In reviewing the history since the early 70s, it is apparent that whenever the U.S. government has tried to favor a particular fuel absent market realities, there have been unintended consequences.
So as we go forward, I think one of the things I want the members to think about is, what are the benefits of an open system?
A 4th witness called for more data.
The nation needs reliable, consistent, detailed, open-source data about composition and operational elements of U.S. oils. Significant information gaps have accompanied the nation's increased oil production.
Up until this point, most members have really avoided talking about this issue, but dropping oil prices have created a new sense of urgency and really drove a lot of rhetoric on free market principles.
I see Mr. Barrow over there. He's a member who's not going to be here next year. His state's the peach state. Do we have a ban on exports of peaches? Yes or no? Okay, we got Mr. McKinley up here, who's a coal state. Do we have a ban on the export of coal?
Well, I hear you talking about more data and more information in the hands of government, all that. I think if we unleash markets, glorious things will happen.
And so importation of LNG, which we've passed through the House that we would like to see for our allies in Europe and Eastern Europe, I think the same would be true on crude oil exports.
But as the price drops, we want to make sure that we can keep that production up and also keep people out there producing.
Some members are caught up between the producers who would like to repeal the ban and the refiners who are benefiting from the ban.
I represent Houston, Texas, and we have 5 refineries in East Harris County, but also I have all my service companies. So I want to keep them working in the oil patch, but I also know that this is probably the best time in my history that we've seen the refinery margins where we're at.
I have a small boutique refinery in West Virginia, Ergon, and fills a niche in the marketplace. What could be the impact if the export ban were lifted? What would be the impact on Ergon?
The question is, what would the cost of feedstocks into the refinery in West Virginia be? And I would suspect that it wouldn't change very much.
It was very interesting that no member really stood up for the crude export ban. A couple members were skeptical of repealing it, but even they seemed to leave the door open.
We've spilled blood and treasure over this commodity. As we all know, it still plays a major role in fueling our economy. We need to understand fully the implications before we make this change.
We need detailed, accurate information, I believe, to conduct a proper assessment of increasing exports.
Some members come to the issue with a geopolitical mindset.
I like the idea of countering Mr. Putin. European countries are reluctant to stand up to him because they need his oil. If they could buy our oil, they might actually develop a backbone. So
most members are really keeping their options open on this issue, so you can expect to hear a lot about it in the coming months.
We want to be very thorough before we make a decision to go one way or the other.
I've learned a lot, but I'm still not sure where I am on this issue.
I come to this issue with truly an open mind.